All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Here in this live stream today, we're going to be talking about an atmospheric river of moisture moving across the southern United States, and this is going to bring a lot of heavy rainfall, a lot of flash flooding potential here across that region, especially the lower Mississippi Valley, the Dixie Alley region, and then on up there across the southeast. So we're certainly seeing those troubles across the deep south with this system. Let's look here currently, right now, before we get to the heavy rainfall threat. We do have some dense fog to talk about. We had a lot of dense fog advisories this morning. A lot of those areas here into the Midwest, especially with that melting snowpack, seeing under a half a mile of visibility here this morning. So looking right now, this is your HRRR model showing you the visibility going into the afternoon here. And we're going to go into the afternoon hours. Notice here by mid-afternoon, 3-4 o'clock, you can see a lot of the visibility is better here across portions of the Great Plains. So from Nebraska down into Kansas and Oklahoma, areas that saw those half-mile or less visibility restrictions this morning, we'll start to see improvements as we go deeper into the afternoon. We could see more 8, 9, 10 miles here of visibility, so much improved. Across the Midwest, there's still some lower clouds, so our cloud axis is across this region, low stratus, and we're seeing a lot of these dense fog areas across portions of Indiana, central Illinois, getting into southeastern Iowa, and patchy areas here this afternoon. And then as we go into this evening, we're going to start to see that start to reinvigorate again. We're going to start to see more of that fog coming back because we're getting into the evening hours, we're cooling off our temperatures, the winds start to lighten up naturally with our environment as we go into the evening and overnight. And then we have that snowpack that continues to melt as temperatures are hovering around freezing on either side of that freezing mark. So definitely starting to see more of that fog as we go into the nighttime hours. More dense fog advisories may be needed with this as we go in towards tonight here. And then walking you through your Thursday morning, just make sure if you are heading off to work, school, or just running errands out there, we have more of that dense fog. It looks pretty thick up here across portions of the northern plains and the upper Midwest. So that's probably the area with the most impacts from this fog event as we go into your Thursday morning time frame. So just make sure to leave plenty of time out your door as you go out the door on Thursday morning out there. So especially, again, across the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, a lot of those areas to the north, we're likely going to be seeing that. All right, so that is that. Let's talk about the rainfall here, and let's kind of zoom out the picture as well. Let's talk about the United States as a whole, and let's get off the visibility here real quick. Let's look at our precipitable water values as we go in towards your Thursday morning. Notice, look at all the bright greens and yellows here across the eastern 2/3 of the country. This is indicative of some very high moisture content in our environment and in our atmosphere across these areas into the southeast, the Tennessee Valley, the lower Ohio Valley, even some of that bleeding up here into the I-95 corridor there and into the northeast, the mid-Atlantic. A lot of these areas are going to see those higher precipitable water values. And this is actually trouble because this is going to be training over the same area. So as we go into your Friday time frame, notice we're going to start to see here. Let me go back. Okay, yeah, there we go. Notice how we start to see more of that as we go into your Friday, kind of training over the same areas here across the southeast, getting into the mid-Atlantic. We're going to see a lot of that moisture from the eastern Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico joining forces and seeing a lot of that moving over the same areas, enhancing that flash flooding potential across the deep south. So let's talk about precipitation over the next 24 hours or so and kind of walk you through what you can expect with that moving forward. So going into this afternoon, we start to see more of that rainfall. We have a line of thunderstorms down here across the deep south, likely producing some heavier rainfall, some stronger thunderstorm activity on the southern flank of this down toward New Orleans there in southern Mississippi. Really, even that is a slight risk, but I'm not that concerned about the severe weather today. It's mainly going to be driven by damaging winds, if anything, although a couple tornadoes could even be possible, brief tornadoes and some hail out of these thunderstorms, but for the most part, I'm not overly concerned about the severe weather threat. What I'm more concerned about is the flash flooding, as we have more moisture, and it's moving over the same areas this afternoon from Tennessee down here into Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and East Texas. And we're going to start to see that moving on a more southwesterly to northeasterly trajectory over the same area. So notice as we go into the evening hours, here we go. We got more rounds of showers and storms. There will be dry time in between this, okay? It's not going to be a continuous rain all the way through the night and into your Friday. That's not going to happen, but we're going to see a lot of periods of rain here. So not a lot of dry time, but there will be some. And then you can see lines of thunderstorms kind of lining back up across Louisiana, coastal Texas here into the Lake Charles region, into Houston, Beaumont, and then we have more across the San Antonio area, and that's just lining it up across the deep south as we go through the evening hours. Waking up on Thursday morning, that area is going to continue to light up with precipitation as we go deeper into that time frame. Very heavy rain here for Tennessee, the Chattanooga region, waking up, a very soggy start to your Thursday morning. Down here across Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, the Montgomery region, watching out for some scattered showers and storms on your Thursday morning as well. And then that will travel further west, Jackson, Mississippi, Shreveport, especially, the Shreveport area could get hit hard with some very heavy rain to start off your Thursday morning. Lake Charles as well, a nice line of showers and storms here. Very high efficient rainfall rates here is going to be produced by this Gulf of Mexico moisture we were just showing you. So we're definitely going to be starting to see some very heavy rainfall rates for your Thursday. And then that line of storms will continue to march east, okay? So as we go through the day, this is by about midday on Thursday, that line of showers and storms will be approaching middle and western Tennessee, Alabama, eastern Mississippi here, and down into coastal portions of Louisiana. So that's going to be more of a progressive line of showers and storms, but a potent one with some very heavy rains. And then as we go deeper into your Thursday, there we go. We get a little bit of a break, okay? So that's some great news. As we go into Thursday evening, we get a decent break from the heavy rainfall here across the Dixie Alley, the lower Mississippi Valley, and the Deep South region, whatever you want to call it. That's definitely what we see as we go into your Thursday evening. So that's some good news. Let's look at our precipitation here over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. And notice, you can see going through Friday, this is through Friday at midday. This is around noon, 1 o'clock. And look at the swath here. Very heavy rains from Tennessee, especially middle and eastern Tennessee. So Nashville, over to Crossville, Chattanooga, and Knoxville, Tennessee. And then down across northern Georgia, including the Atlanta metro area on north. And then across much of Alabama, especially the northern and central part of the state there. Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, the Huntsville region, and then down perhaps to the Montgomery area with some heavier rain at times. And then that will trail back to the south and west and toward Jackson, Mississippi, the Laurel region, getting down into Hattiesburg, and then more of that into Louisiana. Places like Shreveport, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, a lot of those areas, Lake Charles. And then that will transfer back into coastal Texas there, into Beaumont, Houston, and even the Corpus Christi region along the coast as we go in towards your Friday timeframe. So some very heavy rains, and let's kind of zoom it in to show you what we're talking about with some of those rainfall totals, okay? So zooming this in, this is just taking you through Friday at midday, all right? So you can see a nice swath here of about 2 to 4 inches of additional rainfall. This is on top of what we've already seen. You can see the Nashville region averaging around 2 inches up here. The Knoxville area, Crossville, and Chattanooga around 2 to 3 inches there of rain. We can see the Atlanta metro area hovering around an inch of rain additionally on top of what we've already seen as we go through your Friday morning time frame. And then you can also see down here into Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, around a 2 to 4 inch swath. I think that's the bullseye here, is north central Alabama with the heaviest of our rains as we go over the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you live in Birmingham, you live in Tuscaloosa, you live in Montgomery, or just north of there, we're going to see a nice swath of 2 to 4 inches of rain. Locally higher amounts than 4 inches will be possible, okay? So this is just one model run. It's not perfect, as we know, but it's definitely giving you a general idea where the bullseye of the heaviest rainfall is. And then moving further west, Jackson, Mississippi, around 2 to 3 inches here. Hattiesburg, into the southern part of the state there, and seeing around 2 to 3 inches. The Laurel, Mississippi region, around 2 to 3 inches of rain. So you just notice that there's a lot of areas being impacted here And then you transfer that down into New Orleans, around 2 to 3 inches. Lake Charles, an additional 2 to 3 inches. Same thing with Baton Rouge and Alexandria, Louisiana. And then that will transfer back into the Houston area. So the Houston region in Texas, around 1 inch to 2 inches with that over the next 24 to 48 hours. So definitely seeing a lot of rainfall here. Flash flooding is a real contender with this system. We have definitely a potential for some flash flooding. I'm definitely concerned here about Mississippi and Alabama with this, with the very heavy rain. You have the Gulf of Mexico at your disposal, just right offshore there. You have the Eastern Pacific moisture moving in and just kind of joining forces and really starting to kind of think about it as like a rag, right? If you're like kind of getting the rag really soaking wet, and you squeeze that rag over the sink, right? If you kind of squeeze that rag over the sink and kind of get all the water out, that's basically what the atmosphere is like as we go through the weekend, is just basically wringing out all that moisture with kind of like a rag, and it's kind of just leaving some very heavy totals with precipitation behind across the Mississippi Valley here, especially there into the lower Mississippi Valley. So certainly a rainy go of it across the Deep South here, and I see a lot of people joining. I do appreciate everybody's support here on the channel as of late. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos each and every morning, my old subscribers, my new subscribers, my true viewers that watch my videos. I do really appreciate it. Thanks for joining the live streams as well. I do have a poll at the top here. What type of weather are you experiencing today? You guys can vote on that poll. Vote below. Looks like 53% of us is saying cloudy skies. So a lot of people are seeing cloud cover here today. 12% saying sunny skies, 22% saying foggy, and 12% saying other. So definitely a lot of diverse weather across the country as we go through the day. And again, pressing that like button down below certainly helps. It really does. So make sure if you're here in the live stream currently that you press that like button. Even if you're leaving, I do really appreciate it. It helps to get all of this weather information passed along to more and more people, and it truly does help. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's also down below in the description. I could also post the link here right now. I'm going to post my Twitter link. So if you guys have Twitter or X, you guys can follow me there on Twitter or X for more additional weather coverage. So I just posted that link in the comment section. So definitely click on that and follow me on Twitter for additional weather forecast updates. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. It definitely helps out. I'll be doing another weather forecast video for you 7 o'clock in the morning Central Daylight Time tomorrow. So all right, we got that out of the way. So let's talk about here we went through the rainfall here. Let's kind of look at the big picture of what is to come as we go deeper into January here, as we are finishing off the month really, and we're going into early February. You can see all the rainfall here, and that's going to spread up into the Ohio Valley. We didn't really mention the Ohio Valley. We're going to see some heavier rains up there, places like Kentucky, West Virginia there, Southern Ohio, and then on up into Pennsylvania. Watching out for a couple inches of rain there. The flash flooding threat won't be as significant as we see in the Deep South, but we're still seeing those moderate to heavy rainfall rates as well. So just be mindful of that. If you see a flooded roadway, just don't drive through a flooded roadway. It's never good to do that. We want everybody to be safe out there. So, all right, let's look at the pattern here as we move forward into the end of January. And I got to find the right screens here. Just give me 1 second. All right, right now we're going to look at our height anomaly, and I'm actually going to zoom it out to the North American view so we can actually see it. So this is North America. You can see as we finish off the week, we have the high pressure blocking across southeastern Canada. And what this means is that the high pressure is going to be sitting here. It's not going anywhere. It's blocking our weather pattern. So all these systems moving in across the West Coast have nowhere to go but either up into Alaska or more likely down across the southwestern U.S. and around this ridge of high pressure. So it has to sink down across the southwest, so first affecting California, Nevada, the Four Corners regions, and then that transfers east there into Texas. Definitely seeing a lot of that activity as we go into the end of the week. Let's move this forward a little bit further as we go in towards, say, the very end of January. Let's go towards this weekend time frame. This is by Sunday, okay? So this is Sunday. This is an ensemble model. So again, take this with a grain of salt, but this is pretty decent because Sunday is just a few days away. And you can see we got a low pressure system somewhere down here across the mid-Atlantic or the deep south. And that is going to be producing some snowfall potentially on the northern side, wherever that decides to set up, whether it's the Ohio Valley or interior New England, still remains to be seen. We'll kind of dive into that in a minute. And then underneath that, just some rain, some heavier rains again for the southeast and the east coast as we go into the weekend time frame as the system moves east. Notice that high pressure that was blocking up here into southeastern Canada is kind of retrograding itself further west into central and western Canada by the end of the weekend. This is on Sunday, January 28th. And notice the pattern out west. We start to see more ridging building across the west. Warmer temperatures, relatively speaking, will start to build for a time as we go deeper into the weekend. So that is something to keep an eye on. And then going into the very end of the month, we're starting next work week now. This is on Tuesday, January 30th. And notice how that high pressure system kind of retrogrades back west this weekend, like we just mentioned. And then across central and southern Canada, it kind of just sits there as we go into early next week, not really going anywhere. So the northern plains, the northern Rockies, and the upper Midwest are most likely to fall victim to our above normal temperatures with this pattern, okay? So if you live up mainly just across the northern tier of the United States in general, we're likely going to be seeing more above normal temperatures rounding out the month of January. We have that low pressure trough across the East Coast that's exiting the United States as we go into the next work week. This is early next week on Tuesday. And then here comes another train of storms, okay? We have one storm here that's moving across the south today. We have this second storm moving across this weekend, across Texas, on up through the East Coast. That's going to exit. And then we have a third system that's going to move in. This one is probably going to be more potent, especially for California and the West Coast as we go into the middle of next week. And look we have the blocking in place, right? So that means, like we were mentioning before, this has nowhere to go but down underneath of that high pressure blocking. So we're going to see that as we go in towards that late week time frame. And notice, like I just mentioned, the high pressure blocking here across southeastern Canada will actually strengthen, okay? It's going to strengthen even further, and it's going to start to retrograde back east a little bit as well. So it's going to kind of wobble over the next few days. But in general, it's going to be across Canada and the upper Midwest. And then you can see there's that low pressure trough, pretty strong, coming into California, providing us with a plentiful amount of rain and snow. The Sierras are going to absolutely get crushed with snowfall with this system. I have very high confidence in that. We'll show you that here in a minute. But yeah, we're going to see a lot of precipitation out west with this, a lot of cooler air that's going to be diving down. Look at the source region, folks. It's been very cold up here in Alaska, and that is going to be diving south through British Columbia here into Washington State and eventually all the way down here toward the Baja of California. Now, it's not going to be like 30, 40, or 50 below zero or anything, but it's definitely going to be some colder air. And that will be providing us with some nice snowfall. And look at how that trough, as we get into the following weekend, this is as far as we're going to go. This is on Saturday, February 3rd. Notice how strong our pressure difference is here, okay? You have a very strong high pressure ridge up here into eastern Canada. You have a very strong trough down here into southwestern United States, really parked over California. And that is going to open up the floodgates to the eastern Pacific Ocean. Very, very high moisture content off of the ocean here. And then just notice, as nowhere to go but underneath. So we're going to see that storm track set up across the southwest. That'll be diving down through the Four Corners region into the southern plains, places like Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas, and then up into the southeast and in towards the east coast as we get into that first full week into February. So let's kind of show you as well what I'm talking about with our precipitation out here, because our precipitation over that 7-day period is going to be rather significant. Let's go back here to the United States view and kind of show you what we're seeing. So as we go into that time frame, this is all the way through the end of January. So this is taking you right up to the 1st of February here on Thursday, February 1st, next Thursday. And you can see there's that second system. That's the second system producing some heavier rains down here across the southeast into the mid-Atlantic. We've talked about this. That's definitely going to continue as we go into the weekend. Then we get a little bit of a lull across the Rockies, the Intermountain West, and the High Plains as we go into early next week. And then there's that third trough that's going to be moving in across the West Coast. Very heavy precipitation starting British Columbia, the Vancouver region seeing some very heavy precipitation. Seattle, Portland, the Medford region, down into Sacramento and those areas, Fresno. We're going to start to see some very high precipitation values across this region as we have that Gulf of Mexico moisture moving up this way towards the north and east, and then we open up the Pacific moisture and move that further inland. And then as we go into the first full week there of February, let's take you all the way up to that following weekend. This is through the 4th of February. As that trough comes in, there you go. We got more precipitation on the leading edge down here across the lower Mississippi Valley. That's the last thing we want to hear, especially with the potential for flash flooding this week. Now, if you are not a lover of drought, I know there's a lot of people that don't like droughts. Obviously, droughts are not a good thing. We need this rain across the deep south to get rid of our drought, our significant drought down here. We have a lot of exceptional drought. We've been in a long-term drought across this region. So while it's good to see the rain, it's not good that we are actually seeing it in this short amount of time. We're just getting rid of this big system, and then we have just another one right behind it. And you can see California absolutely gets crushed by this system with very heavy rains as we go in toward the following weekend, and that just spreads down further south. This is going to be the entire state of California. It's not just going to be northern, not going to be just central California. We're talking southern California as well. Los Angeles, San Diego, those areas, Fresno, like I mentioned earlier, very heavy rainfall rates as we go in towards that first week in February there. So definitely going to be seeing that. And then that eventually will transfer further east. So places like Phoenix, in towards the Albuquerque region there, into the Texas panhandle with time, West Texas. We'll start to see a lot of that moisture as we go beyond into the following weekend. So that's what the precipitation. Let's look at our wintry precipitation during this period, this 7-day period. Look at all of that snowfall that's going to be coming across the western United States. Look at that, folks. I mean, the Rockies are absolutely going to see some very nice snows for the ski resorts out there. We're definitely going to be seeing some healthy snows across parts of the Pacific Northwest, even British Columbia, like the Vancouver region, those higher elevations there in southwestern Canada. Definitely seeing some very nice snowfall there as we get into the first week in February. And look at the Sierras. Let's kind of zoom in here to the Sierras because man, oh man, we're seeing some very nice snowfall here across the Southwest. So let's zoom it in here, and you can see the Southwest absolutely going to get crushed with this snowfall. This takes you through February 5th. Okay, this is Monday, February 5th, and look at all the snow out here. North of Las Vegas into central and eastern portions of Nevada, those higher elevations, over 8 inches of snow. You can see that outside of the Salt Lake City area, over 8 inches, locally up to a foot there. And this just takes you into the first week of February. And then you see that transfer into Arizona, western Colorado, into New Mexico. And not to mention, look at the Sierras out here. We're seeing a few feet of snow with this system. So our snowpack in our watershed out here will be loving all this snow. Definitely seeing a lot of moisture supply with this here. If you're going higher elevations into the Sierras, traveling out here, again, it's going to be treacherous, okay? Because you go up in the higher elevations, you need those snow tires. You're definitely going to need those chains on your tires because it's going to be very, very snowy. We're probably going to be talking about 1 to 3 inches per hour of snow rates, if not higher, in some of these areas here in the Sierras. So it's really going to be a big deal for the Sierras in the west as we go through the week here. And just look at that. It just keeps coming. This is going in toward the second week there. Look at that. We're going in toward February 7th or 8th. And that snow is just completely just overspreading the Four Corners region here in those higher elevations. Really not that far outside Las Vegas, not that far outside of Phoenix there in Albuquerque. We're just seeing a lot of snow. And this pattern is very conducive to seeing some snow here in Denver as well. So if you live in Denver, in Colorado, this is a great pattern for you. Salt Lake City, the same thing. Very good pattern, obviously, for the Sierras out here. Reno, definitely seeing some of that as well in Nevada. So a lot of areas going to be loving this as we go through the long range period. Let's look at the Pacific Northwest now, because we haven't looked at this much. And kind of looking at the Northwest up here, we're not going to see as much snow during this period across this region because a lot of that moisture kind of gets stuck up across the southwestern United States and then moves east across the Four Corners and in toward Texas. But we're still going to see some moisture, okay? So like Washington State, Oregon, getting into Idaho, western Montana, western Wyoming. A lot of these areas will still see some snow, just not as much. There will be some winters here as well, though. The higher elevations of Washington State and Oregon, the higher elevations in central and southern portions of Idaho, western Montana, western Montana, western Wyoming. A lot of those areas will likely be seeing over a foot of snow, and those higher elevations, again, snow tires are needed. Those chains on your tires as you go up in elevation will be needed here. And then Vancouver, up into British Columbia, we're seeing some very nice snows with this setup. So we need to be patient out west. I know, a lot of people have been wanting the snow this winter. I promise you with utmost certainty it is coming, and it's about a week away, okay? So if you wait just one more week, we're going to be seeing some nice moisture supply for the watershed out west, and it's going to be coming in full force, okay? So we're going to just continue to see these storms, and I promise you this isn't the last storm. The first week in February is not the last storm you're seeing moisture out west, okay? So it's just going to keep coming. That atmospheric river is going to keep on moving in, and we're going to see a lot of this moisture, rain and or snow across this region. So something to keep an eye on. So let's zoom it back out here to the North America view because I wanted to show you this as well. We're going to go into the middle of February, and again, take this with a grain of salt. We're only going to the 15th of the month, okay? And it's reasonable to do that when you're looking at ensemble models. It's a little far out, yes, but we're going to kind of do our best in taking a look at what's to come as we go deeper there into the second week in February. And that's as far as we're going to go here because the uncertainty level is starting to go higher at this point. But let's go all the way into basically the 15th of the month. And actually, we're going to use the extended guidance here. And let's look at the weeklies real quick. Okay, so this is back to the 500 millibar height anomalies. And basically, this shows that high pressure in the oranges here and the reds. And then you see blues down here and purples. Those are basically the lower pressure. And you see more active weather with those and cooler weather generally. As we go into that period, we're going to actually put this to a 7-day. As we go toward the middle of February, notice all that moisture that is coming in off the west coast is actually going to transfer downstream. So it's not going to just stay there. We're going to see that move east. So across the southern plains, here we go again into the southeast and then the east coast. Now, this is a very nice setup. If you're looking for nor'easters across the east coast, you're looking for some nice snowfall there in New England, this is the setup you look for during the middle of February and that second week and probably even the third week of the month there for some nice snowfall or just some nice storms in general with even rain across this region just for that moisture supply out there. And we're definitely seeing that as we go into the second and third week there in February. We take a little break into the second week across the west, but look at that. There we go again. Yes, upstream into northeastern Pacific, we have another trough that's going to be diving southeast, and eventually, I promise you, this one is also going to be crashing in onto the west coast during the second half of February. So a lot of active weather here. Definitely, that is for sure. And let's look at the pressure here during that period. You can see higher pressure, that high pressure ridge across eastern Canada will again retrograde further west likely by the middle of the month. We'll see warmer conditions out west, cooler conditions out east. That's just how it's going to work. It's kind of going to wobble back and forth. It's just going to be a wild month. February is looking like a wild month. Just stay on your toes. It's going to be a very busy month for weather. You're going to be seeing a lot of different things here, from snow to ice to freezing rain. That could be very impactful with the ice out there, to flash flooding, severe weather, atmospheric river events. It's going to be a crazy month, that is for sure. So stay on your toes. Let's look here at our temperature anomalies as well here real quick toward the middle of the month. So all that cold air up here into Alaska. So let's back this up to the early part of February and kind of show you where all that cold air is. So here's the first week in February. See all of that cold air up here. Below average anomalies across most, if not all, of the state of Alaska up here and parts of coastal western portions of Canada. Notice the high pressure in control across most of Canada and the northern tier of the United States, in particular the northern plains in the upper Midwest. Our temperatures there in association with that high will be well above normal. And then as we move down across the west coast here, we're going to start to see near normal to slightly below normal temperatures during that first full week in February. But then watch Alaska. I want you to keep an eye on Alaska here. Watch as we go into the second week in February. There we go. The cold goes bye-bye. And we start to see that drain down into the western third of the country, into portions of the Four Corners, into the Intermountain West, the Rockies. All that cold air into Alaska is going somewhere, and it's dropping south. And notice Alaska gets warmer. Alaska gets warmer during this period, during that 7th through the 14th time frame of February, into that second week. And then as we go in toward the middle of the month there, notice that cold air out west, the guidance is suggesting it's going to march east and set up most of the lower 48 by the middle of February with below normal temperatures. So with that said, winter is not over, okay? If you're looking at long-range weather apps out there like the Weather Channel app or the AccuWeather weather app, great weather apps to have, don't get me wrong, but I do promise you that when you're seeing 40s, 50s, and 60s for high temperatures on those weather apps and you're like, man, it's February, it's in the 50s, we're done with winter. No, we got another batch of cold air coming in as we go into the middle of February, and this will turn us back into wintry conditions with our below normal temperatures. And it's still February. So below normal temperatures can still be cold. And this could definitely be conducive to some snowfall, especially if we can get that nor'easter track to set up, which it looks like it will, into the middle of February. We got some cold air in place. All you need is moisture. And there you go. We got some snowfall that could happen across the Northeast. We just got to be patient with this pattern, much like we were patient back in December when it was warmer as well. And so let's look at this a little bit deeper. So looking at this as we go in towards that time frame, let's look at our snowfall and the extended guidance. Now, don't take this verbatim, take this with a grain of salt, but just giving you an idea of the big picture here. You got the cold air in place across the lower 48. We know that active storm track with that nor'easter track could set up by the middle of the month of February. And then with that joining forces, you have a low pressure storm track. You have the cold air down below across the lower 48. All you need is moisture. And there you go. You have snowfall starting to fall across especially southeastern Canada. The Great Lakes, more lake effect snow could be coming toward the middle of February. And then we have interior New England snowfall at the very least, but that could even be further south. The I-95 corridor could be in play here. Of course, the Appalachians could definitely be in play as well. And maybe just cold enough to see some snow in Virginia and North Carolina with the setup. It just depends on the actual pattern once we get closer to that time. So some good things are coming, folks. That's what I'm saying here. An atmospheric river is not all bad. You know, it's nice we're getting moisture across the deep south. It's really nice we're getting moisture across the deep south. We truly do need it here, and I'm going to show you that moisture once again on the screen. This is going to take you all the way through the end of the month of January, okay? This is all the way through the 31st. Here's all your precipitation across the U.S. and southern Canada. You can see the heaviest amounts with our next two storms across the southeast, the mid-Atlantic on and up to the northeast. Pretty dry to the north, so the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Montana, especially eastern Montana, pretty dry. Northeast Wyoming included as well through the end of the month. Then the Pacific Northwest, the West Coast there, into Washington State, Oregon, Northern and Central California, and eventually Southern California will start to get our rains as we get out of January and into early February. And then that pattern will kind of rotate its way further east and translate eastward downstream. And we're going to see more rain across the deep south and the southeast, and then on up the East Coast with an active storm track further to the south, which means we'll continue to see drier conditions likely across the north as we go into early February. So hopefully that breaks down the weather pattern for you in a very nice, detailed way. Hopefully this informed you, this live stream today. Just wanted to get on live and talk about this pattern coming up. Very interesting, a wild ride coming in February. We got a lot of big things happening here, and it starts with drought-busting rains, okay? Drought-busting rains is good. We just don't need a lot of this all at once. It could cause some flash flooding. All right. Yeah, I got to fix Nightbot on here. I see it. I have to fix it. So our temperatures. So yeah, we're melting our snowpack right now, Max. So I think as we continue to melt our snowpack, it's going to take time to actually get more of those colder temperatures further south. So it'll take time, just like it did in December. It took time to get a lot of that snow, a lot of that cold further south. I don't think the next cold blast into February is going to be as potent, as intense, as cold as we saw, in January. But I do think it's still going to be potent enough to where we're going to see some snowfall out there across the lower 48. So that's something to keep an eye on. How are the models when it comes to El Nino transition into Enso neutral and La Nina? They do pretty well. They do have to adjust over time. So like when you're in an El Nino pattern for so long, and it's a stronger El Nino, not anymore, but it was, that means it's going to take time for those models to adjust to that. So we're really not truly going to see those Enso neutral and La Nina conditions until we get deeper in toward the spring and summer months. So even El Nino, even if it ends in spring, we're still going to see its effects a couple months after. Kind of have that lag time, and we could see those effects continue deep into the spring months, even though we could be done with El Nino. Yeah, make sure to hit that like button, everybody. It would be nice to get over 100 likes on here. We got several people watching, so I appreciate it. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Best way to stay updated here is to subscribe and press that notification bell. I will have another video out, like I mentioned before earlier on in the stream. That video will be out in early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., so make sure you're ready for that. So everybody, if you're not subscribed to the channel here on the live stream, make sure to subscribe down below. It's a great way. It's a great way to stay updated here on the weather. A lot of great breakdowns of the weather through 2024 and beyond. Next week, the sun sets at 5. Yes, absolutely. That's great news. Yeah, we're going back the other way. So eventually we're going to be springing forward here pretty soon. I'm just going to leave this up here to show you where the rainfall will be. So pick your spot on the map, and this is the rainfall amounts you'll be seeing. Where you're in the reds, if you're in the reds here across the Deep South, that's generally 3 inches or more of rain in the oranges and the reds. When you start to see these like really bright pinks, purples, and blues, that's where you start to see double-digit rains. That's way up there into western Washington State through the end of January. So Wisconsin needs some snow. Yeah, El Nino does that, okay? So, like, if you live in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, or the Ohio Valley, and you've seen a lack of snow this winter, you may have seen maybe one good snowstorm or two, or maybe none. It's just because of the El Nino pattern, and that's likely to continue through the rest of the winter months, unfortunately. So if you're wanting snow up there in Wisconsin, I just, there's some hope. There's some hope for snow, but I don't think it's quite going to be enough to catch up to average or above average snows this winter. There's no way that's going to happen at this point. We're already entering into the last week in January, so it's going to take some time for sure to get some snow up there again. But when it's all said and done, when the dust settles by the end of winter, most of the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley is going to end up well below average with the snowfall. Hey, Divine, thanks for joining. Yeah, like I said, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It's the best way to stay updated on this channel for detailed weather breakdowns. Lots of great things happening here over the next couple of weeks. Lots of great videos coming out. We have our February forecast video coming out here in about a week. We have our spring weather forecast coming out in the middle of February, and a lot of great videos coming up, including an El Nino update video that will be coming out sometime in February as well. And then, of course, we'll have spring updates along the way, and our summer forecast coming out deeper into spring, probably in May sometime. So a lot of great videos coming up on this channel, and don't miss it. Again, subscribe, like, notification bell, everything. We're definitely going to continue to keep you covered here. Yeah, I'm trying to find can't find that on here. I hope next winter we'll get snow. Well, next winter is pointing towards a La Nina. So there's probably, if that is the case, if a La Nina does occur, that would probably lean towards more snow than not across the upper Midwest, if that pattern came to fruition. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, Rain Mavs. I'm putting my spring forecast together right now. That should be out between probably around February 10th and 15th time frame, somewhere in there. So we'll continue to update you guys on what's to come with the spring forecast. I'll be breaking down the temperature forecast, precipitation forecast, and the severe weather forecast for the spring, and much more as well. Snow in the Texas Panhandle in the first week of February? Question mark. No, I don't spam my chat, please. But yeah, no, I don't think we're going to see a lot of snow probably at first for the Texas Panhandle, but I think there could be some later on in February if we have that colder anomalies like I was showing you moving further to the south. So here, I'll go back and show you what I'm talking about here. Let's go back to the 7-day here. All right, so what I'm saying is once this pattern comes in across the West Coast, you can see that trough coming in as we go into the first week in February. We got that blocking across Canada, right? That colder air eventually in the second week of February will set up across the deep south. Here you can see that with these 500 millibar anomalies. That should be enough for at least a cold rain. Okay, so for a cold rain across Texas there in the Texas Panhandle. But I don't quite think, we're going to be cold enough for snow. We could, but I think if we're melting our snowpack in the Midwest right now, it's going to be hard to get that source region to cool down there in Canada with that northwest flow to get that cold to produce snow. But definitely could be seeing some 40s and 30s out there. We're just kind of going over what you can expect with the big picture here. Take it with a grain of salt, take it how you will, but that's just what we're seeing as we go deeper into February. And remember, on this channel, 9-10 days before the polar vortex arrived into the United States and North America for that matter, we actually called it here. I had a video coming out that said a polar vortex is coming. It came, it went, and that was that. So we did have a polar vortex event happen. I called it on this channel almost a week and a half to 2 weeks in advance. It happened, and that is finally the coldest weather, I think, of the winter season should be behind us. We'll just have to wait to see what February has to bring. Probably not, mister. Not sure what happened. My keyboard glitched, definitely not. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching today's live stream and kind of updating you on what to expect. Be safe out there with the flash flooding and heavy rainfall over the next several days as we round out the month there of January. Again, we'll go back to show you the rainfall totals before we get out of here. And you can see these rainfall totals will be formidable across the lower Mississippi Valley, through the southeast, and on up there toward the east coast. Just make sure to turn around, don't drown, don't drive through flooded roadways. It's never good to do that. You can't see the roadway in front of you. So definitely, especially don't drive during flooding events like this at night through flooded roadways, because it's just not good in general, let alone during the day. Just don't do it. It's just not good. Never good to drive in flooded roadways. But just stay safe out there with the flash flooding. A little bit of severe weather as well, so we could be seeing that. But I think the flash flooding risk is a much higher than the severe weather risk at this point with this storm. We'll see what happens as we go into February. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining this afternoon. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday out there. Enjoy the rest of January 24th. And I will see you all in tomorrow's weather forecast at 7 o'clock a.m. Central Daylight Time. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.